Okay, so hi everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar today. So my name is Nikki Sunga, the MRDC sales, and we introduce you the release of the new MRDCL Central. So in this webinar, we will be showing you several new features of MRDCL, and I have here with me Racy, who is the project manager of the new MRDCL release, and lastly, Mr. Phil Hearn, the director and founder of MRDC Software. So Phil Hearn will introduce this new MRDCL release and Ray will show you how MRDCL Central works. So there will be a question and answer in the end of this conversation. And any question you may have while the presentation and demo is still going, you can feel free to ask on our question and answer box, and we will accommodate it and answer it at the end of the question and answer part in the end. Okay, so I will hand it over to Phil.
Hi, thanks, Nikki. So just to sort of introduce you to what to expect in this webinar, I'm going to start by just sort of taking you back, perhaps, first of all, just through the sort of thinking of where we see MRDCL coming from and taking us to, and what the sort of the goal is. So, and then I'm going to tell you about some of the new features in the classic MRDCL software, the software that's been around for many, many years now. Some new things that have gone into that, but then we're going to get onto a demo and look at some really innovative new things that are coming to the software, which I would suggest are changing the focus of where MRDCL is and where it's going and where it sits, if you like, in the market research software market. And then a quick look at the end on what is coming next, although I'm going to preview that before the demo, because this upgrade that's coming out on the 1st of January is, if you like, phase 1 of 2, and the second release that's for Q3 next year will, if you like, complete a whole series of things which I'm going to expand on in the next sort of 20 minutes or so. So let's look at perhaps where I see this upgrade leading us. And I suppose it sort of starts from a dream, if you like, in the sense that I more and more see tabulation software as needing to move on. And whilst I think MRDCL is the number one when it comes to scripted tabulation software, market research has changed, and it's not really now that we just key in data from paper questionnaires, we run some tables, and then someone writes a report from those tables. Life has changed significantly since that sort of time when that was the case. And I guess our vision with MRDCL is that you should be able to take in your data from whatever data collection platform you use, whether that's paper or online or CATI, whatever it might be. You should be able to use MRDCL not just for doing tabulations, but as a variable generation program, pushing data if you want to, if a client wants it, into perhaps SPSS, things like that, but really to go on from that and be able to produce PowerPoint reports, perhaps put data into dashboards, you link to APIs so that you can deliver data however you want to. And that's really the vision of where MRDCL is going to. As I say, this is phase 1 of 2 in that process. And if we take a little look at the history of MRDCL, and this is not going to be a 30-minute lecture on the history of MRDCL, if we look at where it's come from, and perhaps other scripted tabulation software like Quantum, Uncle Merlin, and of course our own MRDCL, the 1990s was probably the time when they went sort of for completeness, in that they could do, I put that in inverted commas, any table you might want to be able to produce. There were other products that could do some tables that you wanted, but not nearly or almost every table that you might ever want to dream of. And that moved on into the 2000s and perhaps the latter part of the 1990s into what I would call efficiency. So scripting languages started getting tools to do loops and things like that and handle perhaps more complex data structures. And we started getting into the era of efficiency. And then perhaps we departed from the other software companies in that our focus became very much more, sorry, I've done the slides wrong there, become very much more on productivity. And we put in a lot of work into getting people to be more productive. And that came out of the fact that we saw labour costs increasing around the world, and people wanted to, companies wanted to produce their results more cheaply and efficiently, having productivity tools. And in that area, we introduced EPS, which users of MRDCL will be well familiar with, as a way of templating things that were either perhaps repetitive, complex, but the idea that you can build your own templates so that you can share them with colleagues to make something less time consuming. And we had goals of perhaps reducing the time that somebody might spend on a project from, say, 30 hours down to 15 hours. And certainly in most projects, reducing the time people spent by 20–25%. And in some cases, we've actually experienced improvements of 80 to 90%. So really that was our focus in the 2010s. So what's for the 2020s? Well, 2020s I've called the 5 vowels, just as something that perhaps you can all remember. And that's really what I'm going to present here to you now. So everybody who knows their English alphabet will know the 5 vowels are A, E, I, O, U. And it's a good way of remembering the 5 things that this first phase of updates in MRDCL is all about, because it's about automation. It's about being able to automate processes, because we see this version of MRDCL as not just improving scripted tabulations and how you can do scripted tabulations better, but slotting the tabulation part and the variable generation part of MRDCL as part of a process in the various things that you want to do in market research now, which might, as I said at the beginning, be importing data, running some reports in PowerPoint, putting it into a dashboard, and all those sorts of things that are growing around market research and will continue to grow, I would say. So expansion in the sense that we're moving into new areas with MRDCL, integration that we now see MRDCL much more as something as part of a process that you might just use bits of it for in your process. You might use it for everything that you want to do, but giving you that flexibility and choice so that you can deliver what you want to your clients. And in terms of output, yes, some improvements there, although less so because we all know that MRDCL, as well as its competitors to be fair there, can produce pretty much any table they want to, although we actually see some need for having things looking better in Excel and perhaps HTML tables as things that we're either have in place already or we're working on in the second release, the second phase of these developments. And of course, it's highly upgraded. So let's look at automation. So first of all, data importing is something that we've managed to sort, if you like, in MRDCL to get round, if you like, I would say, in the years, whereas now we, in the new release that's available, importing data, whether it's from SPSS, SPSS, from a CSV file, all those sorts of things are now automatic or native to the MRDCL script. So you can just read pretty much straight from these files and have it as part of your process. And that's quite a sophisticated level that's been taken to, in the sense that it doesn't just, I've seen imports before where they produce fairly useless script that's hard to work with or means a lot of editing after the event. The goal is here that when you import from SPSS, for example, you get nice, clean MRDCL script automatically generated with do loops in it already, so it's efficient to work with straight away, and you haven't got to spend half a day editing the import, if you like. Obviously, tables, we're continuing to enhance that. You'll see some new things that have gone into the tables part. I'll cover that separately in a minute. Multiple runs is something people want to do more and more. As we increase the vision of how far MRDCL extends into the processes, we want to perhaps produce not just one set of tables, but maybe 1,000 sets of tables automatically if you're doing maybe a PowerPoint presentation for 1,000 outlets for a car dealership, for example. So producing 1,000 reports ought to be as easy as producing one report. So the concept of multiple reports and multiple runs has now been included in MRDCL. Data exports, that can be something that's automatic. We've already now got SAV files being automatically generated and other different types of files so that you can use it in other software, SSS included, and Quantum and other bits of software that people might have. So data exports are being improved, but again, that's going to go a step further. We're very excited about the TS-API initiative that's been announced recently, which will mean there'll be an API to link software in market research to other platforms and we'll be obviously linking to that when that is ready. Reports, and we see very much the point that now we think it's time that MRDCL has a scripting language to be able to link your tables and figures or data and variables into PowerPoint reports, Excel reports, PDFs, and so on. Now that part of the development is for the second phase in 2021, but you'll see from what you see today that we're on the first steps of that to make that possible. And finally, linking through to dashboards is something that we see as equally important. Indeed, we have our own CYS platform for dashboards, but also respect that other people want to use other platforms for producing dashboards. And again, that automation should be possible as well. Expansion, well, I've already talked about expanding into data importing, linking to other bits of software. I don't think anybody should feel that their software does everything and it's a perfect tool for everybody. And we're very open to linking our software to other tools that suit your needs or your client's needs. Charting and reporting, certainly there. We've just released our first version of Resolve, which is going to replace Reflect, which allows clients to do secondary analysis on projects analysed in MRDCL. And we're taking that a step further with an advanced version next year, which really lets you plug in really complicated requirements and also do charting in that if you want to. So that's also being extended as a way of clients and colleagues doing secondary analysis. And again, giving you that option that perhaps your team internally just do the DP people do the variable definitions, and perhaps the researchers do the analysis on some or all projects. And automation is really where we're going with all of our software at the moment. Integration, really the plan is there that it's data from anywhere, process it in MRDCL and deliver that data anywhere. And that's without perhaps almost stating the obvious that benefits research agencies, but I think perhaps more importantly, it benefits end clients. Clients want to get their hands on their data these days. And I think that we really need to serve that need, not just as a company here as MRDC software, but actually as an industry, we need to deliver what clients expect, because clients now get other data very easily, and there's no reason why market research data shouldn't fit that as well. Outputs, data in the formats you require, tables in the formats you require, whether that's looking nice in Excel, HTML, all those sorts of things are either in the new version or part of the process for the second phase. Reports in PowerPoint and dashboards, all these things we want to have part of our software and are all in the schedule for part of the current release or the next release. So a big upgrade and a big sort of move in where MRDCL, if you like, fits into that. And to reflect that, many users, I'm sure on this session here now, have used MRDCL for many years and might feel slightly threatened. And indeed, one or two people, we've announced this before this call today, came back to us and said, can we use MRDCL the way we always have? And the answer is yes, if you want to use MRDCL just as you have perhaps for the last 10, 20, whatever it is years, you can carry on doing exactly what you did. So nothing's being taken away from you. You're just getting a lot more options and tools that you and your company can offer different ways of working on projects, and perhaps choose that on a project-to-project basis. So we've renamed MRDCL, not dramatically, it's just become MRDCL Classic, and that will look like and be exactly what you've known, with some extended features, which I'm going to go through in a minute, that are available in this new version, reflecting some of the feedback we got. What's new is what we're calling MRDCL Central, and that, if you like, is what is housing all these new automation tools so that you can process data eventually from start to finish, right? Really importing data, building variables, producing reports, perhaps in PowerPoint, exporting some data maybe to SPSS and putting it into a dashboard. That's the goal of where we want to be by the end of next year. And MRDC Central, what you're going to see today, is the first phase of that. So let's look a bit further, and I'm going to start by just taking you through the updates that we've released in this version to MRDCL Classic, and then Ray's going to do a demo of the new features that are in MRDCL Central, so that you can have a look at the look, get used to the look and feel of that, and actually see some of those tools in action, so that you get a feel for what benefits you're going to get out of MRDCL Central. So let's start with Classic. This is for the people probably have been using the software for many years, who are familiar with the MRDCL language. There's some things that have gone in there where we've hugely increased the limits. So one thing that keeps coming up, it occasionally comes up, is that the record length now, we've extended it from just about 100,000 characters to 300,000 characters. That tends to be for mainly because there's several online platforms that don't let you choose what you export when you put the data out into an ASCII file, which is perhaps the preferred way in some software platforms. And if they've got a lot of text in there, they tend to store that data terribly inefficiently, and we have a need now to extend that to 300,000. We're not aware of anybody actually breaking that barrier. And I should repeat for people, or should say for people who are not familiar with MRDCL, this doesn't stop you handling bigger chunks than 300,000. There is a tool that we have that's free that will chop it into blocks of 300,000, and you can read effectively unlimited numbers of lines of 300,000 per respondent if you did have something bigger than that. It's just for convenience. So if you did have a file of 1 million characters, for example, we could still process that. It just need one extra step in there. Variable lengths, we changed the length of single and multi-variables from just under 10,000 to 30,000 items. The number of rows in a table has been up from just under 10,000 to 30,000. The number of columns in a table up from 1,000 to 5,000. So some really big increases there in each of just in the capacities that we're allowing. And people who use data statements for lists, that's been up from 250,000 to 2 million. So anyone who thinks they can break that probably needs to question what they're doing, but hopefully that's enough. We've got some new things as well that have gone in. One thing that we've encountered, and this again has come from user feedback, is some big integers that appear in data. Sometimes these are just IDs that appear in online surveys, where a survey platform automatically generates a 16-digit integer as an ID for a respondent. We've now got a new variable type called DJ, which will hold those big integers for you. I wouldn't recommend you use them for every integer you've got, because you'll just slow runs down unnecessarily, but it's there if you've got one of these type of fields in your data. We've also added in now the ability to read directly from a CSV file. That's something that we used to do via a utility before. There used to be a little add-on that you could use that would convert your data so that it would be readable from a CSV file. That's just automatic now. You can see the syntax. You just put a star here where the column number normally goes, and as long as the field's headed Q1, it will read it in. And there's also a syntax for handling multis there, where it's across a number of fields, which I've not covered here, but of course works perfectly well. We've introduced the concept of STPX files now. These are not mandatory, by the way, but they just make managing your files a bit more convenient. It means that that's the master file, and any other STP files you can think of as sub-files. And that'll come up in the demo a little bit shortly, but it's just an easier way to manage your projects if you've got an STP, if you name your one with a control stage, as it were, as an STPX file. We've improved the ask commands that are available now, so that can be more interactive and allow people to make selections through text, multiple selections, so that multiple runs can be triggered. Loops can be set up based on interactive sessions at the front of a run. We've got some new formats, which I won't go into in too much detail in there, but they're all documented in our release notes. And we've got a whole new batch of significance tests that allow you to use t-tests or z-tests for your significance testing, and doing enhanced significance tests where columns, for example, overlap, where you've got multi-response answers in the columns of your table. So some quite big improvements there to what you're going to see. So that brings us to MRDCL Central, and I've already given you as an outline of what to expect in MRDCL Central. So let's just have a look at that as a sort of some topic things here. Well, MRDCL Central comes with a modern file management system. We'll see that in a minute, so I'm not going to talk about that much more. It comes with a color-coded editor, which is something that I honestly thought when the developers first put this concept to me, I thought was a gimmick, but I believe in it now entirely because I find it so much easier now to navigate my scripts, find my errors, because I make plenty of them, and generally work with my STP files. So the color-coded editor, I think, is really quite a valuable addition to the program. Imports from SPSS and SSS, I've already mentioned, and they're tidy imports in the sense that they don't just produce a very lengthy, unuseful script, they'll incorporate do loops and so on. Automated hyperlink tables generated in Excel is in this version that we're releasing now. The batch run facility is already in this version. The automated exports are in this version. And just to sort of peek ahead and what's next, and we'll come back to this at the end, but just to perhaps put it in context before we see the demo, in the next release, you'll see a very simple example of code snippets where Ray will choose a single variable so that you can just drag that into your script and edit it. There will be 100 code snippets available, and you can develop your own code snippets. We'll give you the tools to do that in the next release. So this is what's coming after this current release. There'll be more automation tools. We'll improve the table output so you can format tables in Excel with colors that you choose and layout that you choose. You'll have HTML tables. You'll be able to use MRDCL script to make charts and reports in PowerPoint, Excel, and PDF. And we'll be able to link it all through the dashboard. So it's a really, if you like, this version has given you the starting gun, is the starting gun for what's going to come in the second version as well, to give you a complete system that will really allow some powerful automation. All right, so we're going to get on to the demo now. At this stage, I'm just going to quickly check with Lauren to see if any questions have come in yet. You'll see there's a Q&A box at the bottom. Feel free to type any questions into that, and we'll probably do any other questions at the end. Any coming yet, Lauren? Or
just one.
Yeah.
Does MRDCL convert a CSV data file to ASCII automatically as it processes tables?
Okay, yeah, I get why somebody's asked that question. Certainly, currently, we had a utility that sort of converted the CSV file to ASCII and then ran your script for you. No, in this version, you can still use that, of course, if you wanted to, but in this version, you can read a CSV file just as it is into MRDCL. If you wanted to put it back into ASCII, maybe for a client or something else, some other reason, you could just export it back out as ASCII and it would do that. But no, you can just read it as a raw CSV file as it is. All right, let's move on. Let's then get on to the first part of the demo. So in this first part of the demo, we're going to just have an introduction to the system to get so that you feel comfortable what it looks like, MRDCL Central, a sort of tour around it and how it manages projects and files. Then we're going to go on and look at doing some importing from SSS and SPSS. So let's go on here and I'll hand over at this point to Ray to start on this part.
Hi, in part 1 of the demo, we will be showing you the MRDCL Central features, recently, and how to add new files in MRDCL Central. Upon opening MRDCL Central, you will immediately see the color-coded editor and its toolbar. Above it are the tabs for the color-coded editor tab, the output file viewer tabs, and the last one is the subfile editor tab, which will conveniently help users modify project setup subfiles. You will also see the MRDCL Central toolbar, which includes the STP editor and Viewer tab buttons, Run Setup button, Report Indexer button, and other features. There's also the blue banner bar where the selected setup file will be displayed here. On the right portion of the banner bar, you will see the Settings button and the plus pop-up button, which includes View Module Messages, where user can see the historical transactions. It also includes a button to switch to MRDCL Classic, about MRDCL Central, View Help page, where user can access the links to help videos, blogs, and other MRDCL resources. The toolbar button to switch between MRDCL Classic toolbar and MRDCL Central toolbar is also available. Lastly, the recent list sidebar, which we will demo. To open recent lists, click on the recent list sidebar. In here, you will see the recent setup files sorted by the last modified date on top, which helps user to quickly view the most recent file that was modified or added. Users can conveniently see the favorite pin, status icon, setup name, directory, and the last modified date. When you click on the favorite pin, the setup file will be listed on top most. For example, mtest01 setup file. When we click on the favorite pin, the file will be listed on top, as you can see. This will make the setup files quickly viewable by the user. Next, we will show you how to view and open a setup file from the Classic Recent List conveniently from MRDCL Central. As you can see, there are two buttons here with folder. First is the recent list of files. Second is the recent list from the MRDCL Classic. Just click on the Classic Recent List button. In here, you will see all the files from the Classic Recent List. Select a setup file. For example, let's use the mtest00 stp file. Select that, and this will automatically be added to the MRDCL Central Recent List, as you can see. The next buttons in the sidebar will add setup files to MRDCL Central, which includes Open a setup file. There are also new features like Open a project setup file, which is a single main setup file with control stage and having multiple inserted setup files. Users can also create a new setup file or duplicate an existing setup file directly in MRDCL Central. Also available are importing SPSS XML and text file. You can see them by going to the plus pop-up button. This is the import SPSS XML file and import SPSS text file. And then you also have buttons for importing SPSS subfiles. Now, we will demo how to import SPSS XML file. First, select the plus button on the sidebar. Then click on the SPSS XML button. Then select the SSS XML file, which we will use. So in here, let's go to the demo folder. And then the SSS XML file. Let's use the concise sample one. Open. Immediately, you will see the setup file was created successfully. This file may include PP preprocessor loops. Another demo we will show is how to import SPSS sub file. There are two buttons to import SPSS sub file. First is the basic import SPSS, which is included in the MRDCL Central license. This will import the variable as is. Next is the advanced import SPSS. This is included in the MRDCL Central Plus. The advanced import SPSS allow users to have the option to map the variable types when importing SPSS subfile. This will solve the SPSS limitation where there is no option to import multi-variables. We will now demo the advanced import SPSS. After selecting the advanced import SPSS button, you will see the import SPSS dialog. Select the desired run type option. In here, there are different run type options to import the subfile. There's the run without CSV, which is like basic import SPSS. Run with CSV, which is when you have an existing variable CSV file and you made some changes to the CSV file. You want to do another import on the SPSS, you can easily do that by using this option. The other options allows the user to import SPSS subfile based from the variable types, variable naming conventions, and mapping in the variable CSV. For this demo, we will use run with CSV. There are also options in here to include weight and override the variable CSV. We'll use the default, so click on the select button. Select the SPSS file. We will use demo sub file. You will see that the import SPSS option page, there's the SPSS variable, that's the first column. Next is the variable type, which is identified by the MRDCL Central. And if the variable was identified as multi-variable type, for example, Q9_01, it will have grouping and multi-variable name. Another column is the sequence column, where user have the option to use or ignore the variable during the import. When you modify a sequence, for example, Q8, let's choose to ignore that. Make sure to save it before importing. And then if you modify the variable CSV file, you could also do a refresh here to get the latest changes. As you can see, Q8 returns back to the use, which is what was set on the variable CSV file. There are also other options here. For example, user can choose to add additional SPSS file, remove the SPSS file, or stop the import process when there are more than one subfiles to be imported. Users can also choose to overwrite the setup file, include the ignore column in data file, and there's an import file type option here where user can choose to create the data file only, create the setup file only, or choose to import both setup file and ASCII data file. Another option is the user can choose to import the setup file with the CSV data format. So for this demo, we will import the create setup file with CSV data. That's the default option. So to import, just click on the import button. Upon import, the file will automatically be included in the recent list. Let's run this file. And see the result automatically goes to the summary tab if it's successful. That's the first part of the demo. Thank you.
All right, well, so what Ray's covered there really is just sort of a tour, if you like, of the just basic user interface of MRDCL Central, how it manages projects, favorites, for example, but perhaps more importantly, moving on to imports, how it generates do loops for you automatically to give you what I call good quality MRDCL, a much more usable MRDCL script automatically, and deals with some of the things that SPSS has a weakness in, like you can't have multis in SPSS, but then you want to pull them into multis when you want to analyze them or use them as part of as a variable in MRDCL. So in the second part now, we're going to be looking at the editor that's new to MRDCL and part of MRDCL Central. We're going to look at the concept of having master files and sub files. Again, I repeat what I said earlier on, that anybody who wants to use the original classic version of MRDCL, it's just there like it always has been. So there's no differences here if you don't want to organize your files in this way. And we'll look at some of the automated exports and in fact enhanced exports that are now available in MRDCL. So we're going to go on to that now, and I pass back to Celis.
In part 2 of the demo, we'll be showing you the new color-coded editor, how to export, run setup, and how to check the output files in MRDCL Central. We will use a project setup file for our example in this demo. Let's select the editor tab. Select the main setup file. Project setup files are setup files with multiple inserted setup files, but only one main setup file with control stage. The main setup file has control stage, it also has insert commands for the setup files. The color-coded editor will help users to easily navigate the editor and identify the MRDCL script keywords. As you can see, the finish control is color-coded. The comments are color-coded. The DM keyword and other keywords are also color-coded. This will help the user to easily identify the script keywords. The editor also has similar features like other basic editors, which include search text. To search the text, you just need to click Ctrl F and the search box will be displayed. Let's try searching for the insert word. Insert is selected. Let's try searching up. Another insert word is selected. Let's close the search box. Other features of the editor includes go to line, cut, copy, paste, word wrap, zoom in, zoom out. You can see all the other commands in the editor in the right pane. To open the right pane, click on the Open Close Tools menu, and the right pane will be displayed. In the editor command, you will see all the commands available for the editor. And then the next is the project subfiles, where the list of subset of files are listed. View variables, where users can examine the content of the variable. Let's close the Tools menu. One of the features available in the editor is to comment and uncomment lines. For example, line 14 to line 19 is color-coded. And then let's select the lines and comment them. We can use Ctrl-K to comment them, or we can use the right context menu with the comment line to comment them. Let's select the comment lines. And now, line 14 to line 19 are commented. We can also uncomment the lines. Let's select the lines. And then we can use Ctrl-U to uncomment them, or we can also again use the right context menu to uncomment them. Let's uncomment them. And now the lines are uncommented. Let's save the file changes. As you can see, the status is now modified. Let's say we want to edit the subfile set of files. Let's go to the subfiles tab, and it will automatically open the project set subfiles pane. In here, you can see the list of subfiles that were added. Let's select subset of files. As you can see, it's also color-coded. Let's try adding a single variable type. We can type in ds space $Q49 and so on and so forth. As you can see, the keywords are immediately color-coded. Another way to add single variable type is using the right context menu. On the right context menu, there's a variable type, and then there's ds. This will add a predefined single type variable. Let's select ds. As you can see, the predefined single type variable is added. Besides the single variable, there are other basic types that you can also add. Let's modify this. Let's type 50, and then let's use bit 50. And let's remove some of the text that we won't need. And we can also remove the one we added earlier, and then save. Now let's enable the export. For the export, there are added features in MRDCL Central like automated exporting of SSS version 2 and 3 as well as SPSS subfile during run setup. Also, there's a better export control in MRDCL Central. User can simply select the export type. For example, let's select SPSS from the type of list of export. Then let's go to the export page. You can see that there's still no exported files for the setup file. Let's run the setup file. To run, let's click the Run Setup. In here, you'll also see the type of export, and you can simply select the file type that you want. Then let's press OK. As you can see, if the run is successful, it will immediately display the summary tab, where user can see the summary of the run, which includes the setup file, the data file, the other details of the run, the files created, including the log file. The exported files are also listed in here, the table of content. Let's check the output log. Now the listing is also color coded, the same as the editor tab. And then there's the report, table of content, and the table. Now let's check out the export page. In here, you will see the exported files for the SPSS. You can also view the content of the exported files in here. As mentioned earlier, the export of SPSS includes the sub file. Let's check if the sub file was created. In here, the main setup file. Let's select all file types. As you can see, the sub file was also created. To view the sub file, you will need IBM SPSS to view them. Let's cancel this. Now let's try exporting SSS. Select SSS. And then in here, you will see the different versions that you can export. Let's use version 3. And then you could also do an export in the export page. Just click on the export button. Let's click it. And then immediately you will see the SSS exported file, also viewable. Another feature in here is you could add a DTV file, which will be editable within the export page. Now, let's try selecting another setup file, this time a fed result. Let's go to the editor tab. Let's select the fed one, which is mtest02 setup file. And then let's see the summary tab. As you can see, the status is failed, and there's only the log and listing file that were created. Let's see the log file. In here, you will see that the errors are highlighted in red. And then there will be easily identified. That's it for the second part of our demo.
Okay, so in that section of the demo, the second part there, we looked at sort of working with variables, the color-coded editor. I should stress there that anybody who's very attached to their own editor, they can continue to use that. They don't have to use our color-coded editor. It's just another tool that's available to you. But we looked there at doing some exports, some enhanced exports, so that you've got a proper SAV file, and looking at some of the automation techniques, or some more automation techniques, so that as you're running, you can produce that file automatically, or as Ray also showed you there, you could do it manually as well when SSS was created. And for those not familiar with DTV files, there's a list of variables that you can generate so that you can delete variables, move the order that they appear in the files and so on. That's all editable within MRDCL Central. So finally, we're going to go on to the third part of the demo. I know there's some questions have come in, but we'll just do this third part and then we'll attempt to get through all the questions that we can in the time. So in this third part, we're looking at batch runs, and batch runs can be used to run perhaps 4 different MRDCL scripts, one after the other. Perhaps they're dependent on each other. They could be to run the same batch file 1,000 times. So you wanted 1,000 sets of tables for 1,000 PowerPoint reports that you want to generate. That might be a case where you want to run the thing 1,000 times. So it could be for that as well. And we're going to look at having tables in Excel, and we're going to look at just doing a simple chart on that. Although I should stress the new charting components that really allow you to automate your PowerPoint charts by using MRDCL script. There'll be a scripting language to generate charts in PowerPoint, or update charts in PowerPoint. That is in the second phase of releases for next year. So let's get into this now, and then we'll go on to take on any questions. I can see a few have come in, but we'll take those after this particular part of the demo.
In part 3 of the demo, we will show the batch run and also show you how to create a chart after running a report indexer. Batch run setup allows user to create several setup run in MRDCL without creating a batch file and without any user intervention. Let's create a new batch run. Let's go to the Run Batch Setup page. To create a new batch run, press Create Batch. Type in the batch name, Demo3. Make sure the batch name is a unique name. Type in description, sample demo. And then let's add setup files by simply drag and dropping a setup file from the recent list to the batch run. In here, let's try using the SSS setup file. Let's select the field setup file, mtest01, and then the basic tests. Make sure to save the changes. Otherwise, it won't reflect on the batch run. Next, let's try creating a duplicate copy of the batch run that we just created. To do that, press on the duplicate batch button. Let's select it. It has the same set of files. Now let's try running the batch. As expected, the mtest02 setup file will fail. And since it failed, it did not continue to the next setup file. Now, if we want to continue the batch run, even if there's a setup that failed, we need to enable this checkbox, the continue batch run if STP failed. Now let's try it on the demo tree that we created earlier. But first, take a look that the batch run also has options for the run. You can include export immediately in the batch run and the other options available. You can also include or exclude a setup file from the batch run and or delete it from the batch run. For this run, let's try excluding the mtest02 setup file since we know it will fail. And then for the basic test setup file, the last one, let's try enabling the full run info for this run. And then let's save the changes. And then let's enable the continue batch run if a setup file failed, and then let's run the batch. As you can see, mtest01 setup file failed, but since we had the continue batch run, the setup file failed checkbox enabled, it still completed the batch run till the last file. Now let's see the output of the basic test setup file. Let's go to the editor tab. Since the basic test setup file is already selected, we can see the summary tab, the log file. As you can see, the log file includes the full run information as set up in the batch run. Now let's try looking at report indexer. The report indexer settings. Report indexer is the former free table indexer add-in. It has the same configuration settings as the previous table indexer. Plus, the report indexer can now be automated as part of the run setup and as part of the batch run in MRDCL Central. It has the following options. It has do not generate the report indexer option, which will disable the icon. And then next is XLS after run, which will generate the report based from the table CSV file. And this time, you'll notice that the icon is now enabled. And then there's also the report indexer after run, which is it will generate the report indexer based from the configuration settings, which is right here. Now you could also run the report indexer from the report indexer page and open the file from this page as well. But for our demo, we will try to open the report indexer from the editor page. For the batch run demo that we had, report indexer was already configured to run using the third option, which is to generate the report indexer based from the configuration settings. Let's try opening the Excel file. In the table tab, you will notice that there are two buttons available in the tab. The first button is to open the table CSV file, and the second option button is to open the table Excel file. Let's open the Excel file. Here you will see the report indexer The first tab is the table of content. And then you also see that there are figures and vertical percentage tabs. Let's try going to the figure tab of the table and table 1. Let's select the link. As you can see, the table results are all figures only. And then on the vertical percentage, you'll see that it has percentage. Now let's try creating chart in the vertical percentage tab. Let's create pie chart. Let's insert and then create a pie chart. As you can see, it created 3 data points for the pie chart. Let's try removing the total figure from the pie chart. Let's select the data and then uncheck the total row from the series data to hide it from the chart. In here, you have the pie chart with the percentage only values. Now let's try creating another chart in the figures tab. Let's select the table. This time, let's insert a bar chart. As you can see, the chart was created. You can also select the data and remove the total row if desired. So let's remove it in here. And you have the resulting chart. That's all for the part 3 of the demo.
So in that part of the demo there, we looked at batch runs, being able to chain different activities together. As I say, this is only phase 1 of 2. And we looked very quickly at the end there at doing some basic charts. That really is where you'll see some big developments in phase 2, where you'll be able to automatically generate a chart for every table, with or without total rows, all those sorts of things. But more importantly, taking that one step further so that you can use figures to update and refresh PowerPoint reports, Excel reports, PDFs, and so on. So that's, if you like, the focus, or the main focus of the next phase of developments that we're doing throughout 2021, and in fact we've already started on. And just to put those into context, what is coming next and how that fits in from what you've already seen. All the things you saw demonstrated are available now. They're not things that are in development, they are really available in the new release. So things like code snippets. Earlier on you saw a very simple example where Ray, I think, dragged in a single variable and it edited it so that you could get a single variable into your editor fairly easily. That's going to be extended in the next version, so there'll be 100 code snippets that we'll have on our website that you can download, and we'll also give you tools to generate your own ones to do quite complex things and actually build menus in, so that you can have drop downs, check boxes, radio buttons, so that you can build your own bits of script based on interactive answers that you give, to really give you quite a powerful platform to build your spec that you write in MRDCL. And we've got more automation tools on the way, as I outlined earlier, and improving the table outputs even further, giving you choice of colours in Excel, for example, so that you can lay them out how you want to. So I think at that point I'm going to take a break. Sorry, I've got one more thing I was going to say to you before we do the Q&A, that next year there will be a new website going up called MRDCL.com, which will include the 50 videos we already have that help you to both start and do some of the more complex things that are in MRDCL. They're already available on our YouTube channel, but they'll be part of MRDCL.com. And we're adding 20 more, or maybe 25 even, I think, new videos in the second quarter of 2021. And as I said, you'll have those 100 code snippets available later in 2021, well before the end of the year, actually. And worth mentioning now, because you'll be getting an email about this, and it's a chance to win $500. There will be a competition, which don't do it yet because it's too soon. It will go down a black hole if you do it at the moment. But we will be announcing a competition that if you could come up with a suggestion, and we think it's the best suggestion anybody makes, and we use it in MRDCL, we'll offer a $500 prize to whoever makes that suggestion. But stand by for that email, which will come out. We're releasing this on Jan the 1st, the new version, and we're going to give people a couple of months to work with it and then have ideas in March. So that will be announced in March when you get your chance to win $500. So remind you of the AEIU, what it all stands for, and what we're promoting in this new version, and which I say is the first of 2 phases. Can you have the release now? Well, we talked about it being January the 1st. If you want it sooner because you want something to do in December, feel free to send us an email and we'll let you have it sooner. It is available now. We're not just pushing it out to everybody until Jan the 1st. So let's have a Q&A now. I know some questions have come in. Hopefully Lauren's got some questions that I'll answer. I'll get through as many I can in the next sort of 5 to 10 minutes. I know some of them are quite short answers, so I'll try and deal with them as fast as I can, but as fully as is needed. So Lauren, any questions that have come in that I can answer?
Yeah, we've got quite a few questions, so I'm not sure we're going to get through them all.
Okay.
But we can send emails after to those we don't get through. So
Yep.
The first one is, can you share more details on SPTX files as the main run file?
I think she means STPX files there. She got her words chained up
Oh,
there.
yeah. Me
yes,
too.
me too, yeah. It's that day. Yes, STPX files, nothing mysterious about them. You haven't got to use them at all. First of all, you can just carry on using STP files as you have for the last 30 years. But an STPX file is just a way of indicating that this is the master file, so that when you use it in MRDCL Central, the other files will be sub-files. Now, the advantages of that are, it helps, easily makes it identifiable in Explorer to see that that's the master file. There have been projects I've taken over from people or looked at or done support on when I can't work out which is the main control file. So it's not mandatory, it's just there for your convenience so that it easily identifies the master file that you need to run that's got the control stage effectively in MRDCL. It's no more than that. You haven't got to use it, but it's just a convenience, and I think just makes things a bit more clear if you're sharing projects with a colleague, for example. So that's all it's there for, nothing mysterious about it.
Okay, the next one is, I think in previous versions we could convert SPSS and SSS. What is the difference here?
The old way of the tool that we used to supply for SPSS was a Visual Basic add-in to SPSS that generated an MRDCL script, and in principle it does the same sort of thing as that. What's actually enhanced is, well, the 2 things. Now it's within MRDCL and it's within MRDCL Central, which means it can become part of an automation process, so that you could, for example, go all the way from importing from SPS right through, when we get phase 2 completed, to delivering a report in PowerPoint. Now that's quite powerful, so that is new, whereas before it was just a piece of Visual Basic code that you read into or used within SPSS and exported it, and also you needed an SPSS license to use it. And additionally, now it produces nice do loops, so that the code that's generated in the STP file is that much nicer to work with. So if you had perhaps a rating scale of 100 rating statements, you used to get 100 variables come out all one after the other, which then if you wanted to add in a top 2 box, for example, was really tedious to do because you had to go and edit 100 variables. Now you'll have a do loop and you'll just edit that do loop to put in your top 2 box and everything's done quicker. So yeah, in principle, not a great deal of difference, but actually in terms of efficiency, productivity and automation, a lot of difference.
Okay, how does the SPSS import deal with grids and multi-coded questions when the delimiter is not an underscore? For example, decipher exports which uses R and C. It's, for example, Q1R1, Q1R2, Q1R3.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, the tool that's in there to automatically import, so you can say that Q1_1 to Q1_6 is always a multi, and if you use letters, that's always a rating statement. And those tools are in there. So if you can organize your SPSS file so that they're using that notation or one way or the other, you can just literally click on an option and it'll do everything for you. But if you want to choose what you do with a grid, for example, with rows and columns, that's fine. You'll just generate the import, the vars, I think it's either var or vars.csv file that Ray shows you at the screen there, and you can just annotate it to say what the beginning and end of each variable is, or whether they're just independent variables that are part of a rating scale. So you can just do a button click it if you're able to use a convention effectively in the variable names. If you don't get that choice because you've taken it from Decipher, I think you mentioned there, for example, you would need to annotate the vars.csv file to determine where the variables begin and end, so that they're automatically imported as you want them. And of course that file's then preserved, so if you have to re-import it for any reason, or it's a tracking study where you've got pretty much the same file again or with some minor changes, you can just do that. You can just re-import it using that preserved CSV file, or you'd certainly be encouraged to preserve that CSV file. So hopefully that answers that question.
Okay. In the editor, is there any option to copy or paste in block select mode?
Ray, can you answer that one? I think. Do you mean? I don't quite understand the question. Does that mean you want to copy two separate blocks, and paste it back in? I don't think you can do that, but Ray may be able to answer that one for me if he's there. I'm not sure Ray's still on. I managed to.
He is there. He is there, and he's not muted. He is muted now.
Sorry. Yeah, it's possible. You just need to copy and then paste them to the editor.
Okay, so
it has the same functions as the other editor, so it should be fine.
Okay, thanks, Ray. I wasn't sure on that one. Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, yep. Is there also a conversion in MRDC Central to resolve files?
Yes, I haven't mentioned Resolve today. We're launching that sort of more officially. It is available now. Resolve, just to anyone who doesn't know, is our replacement for Reflect. And just to give a little bit of background on that, if I may, I'll try and do this quickly. Resolve is for secondary analysis. I think I referred to it once, so that colleagues or clients can take an MRDCL project and interactively specify tables with filters and so on and build variables. That's an automatic export, just like the SPSS and SSS ones, which Ray demonstrated. So it's equally available as the ones that you demonstrated there. And just to sort of go on where Resolve's going, it's going through, if you like, the same cycle or similar cycle to MRDCL. So the version at the moment, the free version, allows you to do pretty much what Reflect done, but a a bit more, and certainly a nicer interface. But the next release of Resolve will allow you to have plugins which use bits of MRDCL script to do repetitive, complex, or just magical things. So Resolve is a tool that will really allow some really powerful things, and it will almost imitate, shall I say, what MRDCL does, in the sense that MRDCL will have this module which will allow you to script charts in PowerPoint or feed charts in PowerPoint, Excel, or PDF files, and Resolve will have not all but most of those tools as well. So some really powerful stuff, but I'm afraid that's for quarter 1 next year, so a little bit of patience needed, and we'll be launching that and doing a separate webinar on that during quarter 1 2021.
Okay, we'll just do a couple more because the questions keep on coming, and I think we could
Okay.
we could be here a long time. So I think this was answered in the demo. Do you have a data editor viewer in MRDCL Central?
Not a data editor, no. Well, you could open an ASCII file up. If it's an ASCII, you can open up a CSV file. So perhaps I need to know what is wanted there. If it's to open a binary data file, that would be a separate editor, which we don't have in MRDCL Central. Not that binary files are terribly common now. So hopefully I've answered that question there.
Okay, and then lastly, is MRDCL Central free with the MRDCL license or separate?
So MRDCL Central is mainly free. It comes with MRDCL. There will be a plus version of it, which will have some of the extended features, particularly the automated reporting tools that are coming out in version 2. But everything you saw today is part of the free version. The only one that might go into the upgraded, the plus version, which Ray mentioned, I think, will be the advanced SPSS import tool. But most of the plus tools will be, which will be an additional license, albeit a very low cost license, I hasten to add, will be for the PowerPoint the full PowerPoint PDF automation suite that's coming in the phase 2. But pretty much everything you saw today was included.
Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll leave it there because they, like I said, they do keep coming, and we will send emails out with the answers to your questions. A couple of them are anonymous, so it would be good if you could email, send us an email so we know who you are, so that we can get those answered for you.
Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that little memory of what today was about: automation, expansion, integration, output, and upgraded. And I'm going to just ask Nikki to close out and to ask her perhaps to contact her if you want more information. So Nikki, can I leave it to you to close the webinar? And thanks everyone for joining me. I hope you all found it useful.
Oh, well, okay. Thank you, Phil and Ray, for sharing the importance of the new MRDCL Central and how convenient it is to use. And thank you, viewers, for taking your time to listen and watch this webinar. So if you wanted to know more, or you wanted to upgrade your MRDCL, or even wanted to try to use it for free, please email me at nikki.sung@mrdcsoftware.com. And you can also visit our website at www.mrdcsoftware.com to gain more information about MRDCL and other software products of MRDC. And you can also send us mail. And have a great day, everyone, and stay safe. Have a good day. Goodbye.